Hello and welcome back to your cousin Gans's library. In today's video, we're going to start a new series on this channel, which is going to be called The Thursday Columns, which have been shamelessly stolen and bastardized from fellow booktuber Michael K. Vaughan's The Sunday Penguin. Similar to The Sunday Penguin, I'll be talking about books in the Collins Classic Collection, which is basically a knockoff of the Penguin's Classic Collection. The first book we will be discussing today is 1984 by George Orwell. Now, there isn't much I can say about 1984 which hasn't already been said, and much better than I have. It's the classic dystopian novel, which follows a character named Winston, if I remember correctly, and I guess how he battles against the system and eventually succumbs to it. Now, something which always was very interesting to me about 1984 was its world building. Now, its world building is very interesting because it takes place in, I guess, an alternate 1984. So at the time it was written, it was more so an alternate future. And it basically talks about a world where the planet has been split into three major powers, which all follow some form of communist ideology. Now, those three main powers are, I think the biggest one, Oceania, which controls the New World, Oceania, the southern part of Africa, and the British Isles. Specifically, Great Britain is referred to as Airstrip 1, and it's where Winston lives and where the story takes place. All of, or at least a large part of Eurasia and parts of North Africa are controlled by Eurasia, which is basically an analog for the Soviet Union. And East Asia is controlled by, well, East Asia. So think about China, Vietnam, Mongolia, Japan, those nations. They're under a Maoist government which believes in the obliteration of the self. So very fun ideology. And there are also some free countries, supposedly, scattered around the map. So they're mostly around the equator, so parts of Africa, I think Indonesia is free, same as Arabia and India. And that's basically all of 1984's world building. But it's extremely interesting given the theories which have formed around it. One theory goes that this sort of world map, this projection of the world map that Winston knows, is just false, completely false. And that just Great Britain itself is the only like dystopian state. And they basically tell that the rest of the world is in this state, so that, the populace won't rise up. It's similar to North Korea, one would say, where in North Korea currently they sort of still use an outdated world map which is set in the 70s. So a lot of people in North Korea still think that states like East Germany and Czechoslovakia are still around. The three major powers also mentioned, they're also perpetually at war with one another. So sometimes Eurasia and Oceania will fight East Asia, or East Asia and Eurasia will fight Oceania. And each time a war gets declared, we look at the sort of propaganda machine of at least Oceania, powered by the state, go into propaganda mode, talking about how, oh, Eurasia was always our enemy, East Asia was always our best friend, sort of. When the next month it might just be, oh, Eurasia was always our best friend, East Asia was our worst enemy. And that is another thing which has always been heavily analyzed about 1984, is how, I guess, there's this, one would say, destruction of the truth, or just, what would be a good word for it in English now? The allevi- the alleviation of the truth, I guess. Um, where if you tell someone a lie enough, so you keep reiterating the same lie over and over again, they'll eventually believe it's true. Um, Also, another interesting thing is how the history of the world is taught by at least Oceania. Again, we already mentioned how there's a chance that the world map does not look what it looks like. But another interesting thing is that the party which controls Oceania, which is called the Party, basically claims every important invention. So, if I remember correctly, that they specifically mentioned that the airplane was invented by them, and that the world before the party, or Inksock, I guess, was just a complete um, dystopia. So, unlike what it is at the current time or the contemporary time that 1984 is taking place. And that's always what has fascinated me about 1984. Not necessarily the dystopian analogs or the commentary and the philosophy, but more so the world building. Because let's face it, it's more or less, at least nowadays, it's more or less an alternate history. And one of the first real examples of it. An alternate history is a genre that I'm very interested in. Um, and eventually the mainstream examples, so what's popular with the public. Um, Now, going off topic here, so fun thing about 1984's title is that when George Orwell was originally writing it in 1948, he just switched the two numbers just to make it 1984. Um, so if you're ever having struggle deciding what to title something, just look to George Orwell. He has a solution. Another thing that I forgot to probably mention in the beginning is that the cover. Now, the cover is what looks like a bionic eye in the dark. So it kind of fits in with the theme of Big Brother, which is mentioned throughout. I get who's like a personality in 1984, which represents the party, and that constant, I guess, uh, theme of surveillance. And perhaps another reason, now going back on topic, why the world building of 1984 is so interesting is that it, because it's so lackluster, because we have we know nothing about it, our imagination fills in the gaps, and that always makes it more interesting. So it's a bit of a show don't tell scenario. Overall, about 1984, I would recommend it. I mean, who wouldn't? Um, if you can, go read it. I'd also say that the Collins Classic Edition is pretty good. I mean, the reason I glaze it so badly is because I guess I'm Tsigan and it's cheap as hell. So read 1984.